So, you've just spent 10 hours in true crime-induced angst and have no idea what to do with yourself now that Making a Murderer has finished. It's okay, I understand your pain, but what to do next? A march in the US Supreme Court just doesn't seem practical, and it's cold out there. It's time for more crime documentaries, and the good news is that most of these can currently be found streaming on Netflix. Now, I know it's a little dark, but there's no need to feel guilty about wanting to watch more murder. It's part of the human condition. As they say, fact is far stranger than fiction, and what lies ahead is very, very strange, and really quite disturbing. Now here's 8 crime documentaries to watch after Making a Murderer. Good luck. And perhaps lock your door if you haven't already. Cropsey. The least said about this documentary film the better, as it's far better to go in cold, but Cropsey tells the tale of a New York urban legend and combines it with the very real case of the murder of a young girl. Now the doc goes into the disturbing cases of further missing children in the area and the subsequent arrest of a local man. It's a fascinating look into the creation of a real-life boogeyman, but reassuringly it never glorifies the tragic case and its effects on the community. It's an incredible insight into the way that we react to such horrible situations and spin even worse stories around them. Jonestown, Paradise Lost. There's no way to get around how disturbing this TV movie documentary really is. An understandable inspiration for a number of horror films, including the recent The Sacrament from Ty West, this is the terrifying story of American cult leader Jim Jones, who led his congregation of 918 people to mass suicide. Yep, told you it was grim. Now, the combination of documentary and recreated drama makes for a horribly compelling viewing experience, and no matter how prepared you are for the ending, you're really, really not. Perhaps create a playlist of cartoons to recover. You'll find them on Netflix too. West of Memphis. Get ready for Making a Murderer all over again. In 1994, 3 Arkansas teenagers were found guilty of the murders of 3 boys. The killings were allegedly part of a satanic ritual, and the fanfare at the trial apparently left no room for any doubt. 2 of the teenagers were sentenced to life imprisonment and 1 to death. Notice the words allegedly and apparently, and of course there's plenty of doubt. Thankfully, a vocal group of protesters, including Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson and screenwriter Fran Walsh, lobbied for the case to be re-examined. This is an incredibly thorough dissection of the full case with interviews from everyone who matters. It's incredible and galling stuff. The Imposter. More fuel to add to the fact is stranger than fiction pile. The Imposter introduces you to Frenchman Frédéric Bourdin, who pretended to be the kidnapped son of a Texan family. Bourdin not only managed to convince officials that he was the grown version of the missing 13-year-old, complete with over-the-top story about kidnapping by the military, but also, staggeringly, apparently some members of the boy's family. There's more to this documentary than first meets the eye, but Bourdin's lies have to be seen to be believed and make for a jaw-dropping hour and a half. Tall, hot blonde. Ready to be suitably shocked and appalled by what the internet does to human beings? Think catfish and add a helping of cold-blooded murder, and you're on the right lines for this documentary. Tall, hot blonde is the online username of 18-year-old Jessie, who talks to a man who she thinks is an 18-year-old US Marine. In fact, he's 46 and married with children. What follows is a tale of deception and murder so hideous that you'll probably want to throw your broadband router out of the window. There's a questionable use of narration at points, but very little can take away from the lack of humanity on show here. Aileen, the life and death of a serial killer. Nick Broomfield's film remains the key, real story of serial killer Aileen Wuornos. It follows up from his original 1992 documentary on Wuornos, and it's a depressing trip into her psyche from before she was executed in 2002. Despite being evaluated to be of sound mind by the Florida justice system, Broomfield's questioning shows she was convinced that she was being tortured within her cell using sound waves. The majority of the film shows appeals to get the death sentence overturned, and is another frustrating experience of a system that seems entirely weighted on the wrong side of the scales. The Central Park 5. This infamous case of the rape of a New York jogger in 1989 shows yet again how truly fallible the US court system can be. 5 black and Latino teenagers were arrested and imprisoned for the attack, despite individually denying any involvement. Only the discovery of DNA evidence and a genuine confession from a serial rapist cleared their names after they spent years in jail. The Central Park 5 is yet another Making a Murderer style fury fest that will have you wondering how many more innocent people are behind bars while the guilty run free. Tabloid. True crime doesn't get much stranger than this Errol Morris documentary about the 1970s Miss Wyoming, Joyce McKinney, who allegedly abducted US Mormon missionary Kirk Anderson and took him to Devon, where he was the victim of sexual assault. The case was a tabloid sensation in the UK, and this documentary attempts to tell the true story behind the insane headlines. Now, the access might be unrivaled, but McKinney has since filed a lawsuit claiming that she was unaware of the content of the documentary and thought it was all about the evils of the paparazzi and not the events themselves. An interesting one to add to the list of bizarre crimes and the way that media twists a story to sell papers. So there's 8 crime documentaries to watch after making a murderer. Do you have any others for the list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more games and entertainment news, as well as reviews, previews and features here on GamesRadar Plus.